Welcome to Tech Time Today, a daily 10-minute tutorial on one tantalizing tech topic. I'm your host, Jeff, and today we're going to talk about why you should start building an app for the brand new Apple Vision Pro, and you should start doing it right now. Before we get started, though, just a reminder: make sure you subscribe, click the like button on this video, make sure you enter a comment if you have any questions, any ideas. Actually, I'd love to hear what types of things you would love to see on the Apple Vision Pro, which hopefully you'll get some ideas after listening to this episode. All right, so first let me clarify that I'm not necessarily sending this message out to all developers, especially experienced developers that have a lot going on already. There's very, very, very little chance it would make sense, or I would see people that already have a lot going on and it doesn't align up with their company, their product, what they're doing already, to start building from this complicated, new platform. The thing where it does make a lot of sense is for newer developers, for people who are looking for a way to level up, a way to get an edge, a way to get a new job, a way to get into a new area. This is one of these things that I almost certainly developers have heard and learned for a long time. Um, you know, from other developers and that type of thing. If you want more money, higher paying job, other things, they want people who are hiring want to see that you can branch out, that you can learn, demonstrate that you can learn something new and grow from there. And so that's why in a lot of these different tech schools, they have you write blog posts, talk about how you learn something, and all that makes sense. But the problem is that a lot of times, these articles, when you run into this problem where you are a junior developer and you either are going to be doing something on a technology that there's been a million people have already done before. So like if you are doing it with React, uh, let's say, just an example, you're writing a blog post on React and you're trying to show like you're brand new, right out of college, let's say, right out of CS, majoring in computer science from Boston College, and you want to show to your potential employers that what you can do. So you build a React app, and that is somewhat useful, but it's like such a mature technology now that it's not really as impactful as if you go back to the day when in 2013, I think it was, whenever React first came out, if you were in that like very, very initial early group that were building and writing articles on React way early, and then before it became popular, and then as it started to get popular, you are very clearly seeing your content, your apps, your the things that you built are seen as kind of the foundational stuff that people keep referring to. That is like huge. That is I personally know a lot of people, not just with React, but with Angular, with a lot of other technologies, where that exact sequence helped launch their career, helped help it grow, and that type of thing. So it is a strong strategy, but the problem is that uh, it is hard to build on a new platform. Well, it's hard because in many ways it's hard that there isn't you don't have other people's blog posts to refer to when you run into problems. You have to figure it out on your own, right? So there's that whole aspect, but also you don't actually know if this thing is going to become popular. It could very well be some niche technology. I mean, we brought the examples of React and Angular, but it could very well just be some other random open source project that goes nowhere. And so you spend all your time and everything like that, and it just doesn't become anything. And people look at it and it will mean something. Like I honestly believe even for a dead technology, someone who's showing that they learned something. As an employer myself, like I actually do value that, but it's not as impactful as if that technology, you know, jumped up. So this brings us back to the Apple Vision Pro, and I'm going to share my screen here as I talk about this section. This is something where, regardless of what you think about um, the Apple Vision Pro and this type of technology, the thing is that this has a better chance of taking off than some of these other. Um, there's a much better chance than some random operating system, sorry, operating system, open source project I meant, that you might get a chance to work on. And there is, I was going to say literally nobody building apps on this yet. It's not literally, because this is a extremely interesting time period right this moment, like right now as we're speaking, because the product itself hasn't launched. And this is something that actually I very clearly remember the days when the iPhone was about to first launch, or um, just before that or whatever. Apple went around to a bunch of companies to get them to build apps, like to have like the initial apps in the App Store. So actually, sorry. So it wasn't before the iPhone launch. It was before the App Store launch, technically, which was different. So before the App Store officially launched, they actually got um, people at Microsoft, people at like some other big companies to build apps that would be with the launch of the App Store, just to show, like, demonstrate some examples they got from a couple other sources. And my coworker, Christian, happened to be one of the people who literally was in that first group of apps of people building apps on the iOS platform. So he was working for Kayak, kayak.com. I'm sure you've used it at some point, a travel website, an aggregator to, back then, I think it was just flights, and now they've kind of branched off to hotels, cars, everything else. But he built one, like, literally the first, like, I don't know, 12 apps in the App Store. That there was the Kayak app. And the stories of him building it is just crazy. Just like, it was hard. There was, the documentation was terrible. It was buggy. There were all sorts of issues. Um, but he had a blast doing it, right? And that experience was like so monumental to his overall trajectory, his career, and that type of thing. Um, so I'm not saying it's easy by any means, uh, and I have not started to do it myself yet. But this is something I just realized this week, and that's why I'm kind of having this episode, and that's why I'm kind of talking about it. And so, like, for me, it's probably not as big of a thing, or I'm not in that situation, I guess. But if I was, I would be all over this. This is like, I am just like, cannot even believe how great an opportunity it is. And if you think about it, there's actually like a lot of relatively simple things you could do. So, like, just a couple tips. If you do want to do something along these lines, you don't have to actually utilize every feature that's offered. In fact, you know, so within the VisionOS, like, I'm not an expert on VisionOS. Like, I've only started to look into it, but in a similar way that, as you could do if you build a native app in the App Store, you don't have to use every feature of the native iOS environment. You can essentially, so just like how you just build a web app and just kind of wrap it and throw it um, into the native bindings and everything like that. You can totally do the same thing with VisionOS. I mean, so, like, obviously, you may want to add a couple extra things, but they have this concept of windows. Window is the exact same as a traditional screen, and you can have multiple of them. So just take like this is again, you could do. There's many different angles or different approaches you could take here, but one approach is to either take your existing web app or build like a small web app, like a traditional one, right? um, and then just kind of put it into a window that is in VisionOS. And kind of you don't have to necessarily utilize or some of the features related to volumes and spaces and everything else. You can kind of keep it simple, and just get something out there because literally just the what you got to realize is even if it's not utilizing all of the special features of the device, just by getting it out there, that's like the initial foothold. And there's so many obstacles you have to get over, or just deploying is like a pain. There's so many obstacles you have to get over. So make the app itself super simple and just more like a traditional, you single screen app. Get it out there, in within this now more complex um, environment, and then kind of you can start branching off from there because I mean, geez, there is just a lot of really cool things you can do. And the more and more I thought about it, like just the more excited I got for the future of this. Now, just to sort of like not go gets, but to try to set the reality of kind of the future here of why this is obviously not going to take off, like apps in the app store for iOS, for normal iPhone devices did back in 2012 or whatever it was, or earlier, 2008, I think it was. Um, Obviously the device itself is like way more expensive. It's like super expensive right now, like whatever it is, $6,000 or whatever. And um, it's more intrusive. It's more, like a phone in your hand that you can hide in your pocket is completely different than something that you see somebody, with this weird stuff on their face. You're just not gonna see the likelihood of us having you know, walking into a coffee shop and seeing hundreds of people simultaneously wearing this stuff is not likely in the short-term future. But um, Apple is being smart about it. Like I do think that it's kind of like you could think of it as a gimmick, but the fact that you can see somebody's eyes makes it more socially acceptable than the other VR devices that have been out there for a while. That's why I do think it's like a big part of what I think will be a breakthrough. I think the price will eventually come down. I think that the hardware will eventually become more streamlined, more sexy, more like fashionable. Um, and the thing is that the actual functionality of it, I mean, I'm gonna have to have a separate show to talk about some of the stuff that like I think would be amazing to build on for some of the functionality. But there's just like so much there, so much potential there, um, that I think is just inevitable. So um, I'm really excited about it. I have this entire episode dedicated to trying to convince you to build apps for it as well, and I'm going to be doing the same. So I'll maybe have a couple more shows later on with my progress as I start to get further and further into it. But that's all I wanted to talk about today.